The night was quiet in the Montana countryside. Danny Cole stood in his kitchen, washing the last of the dinner dishes while the old radio played soft country music. His daughter Lily had just gone to bed after asking for 3 bedtime stories instead of 2. She was 7 years old and had her mother's stubborn spirit. It had been 2 years since Danny lost his wife, Maria, to cancer. 2 years of learning how to braid hair, pack school lunches, and answer questions about why mommy was not coming back. Some days were harder than others. Tonight had been a good one. Lily had laughed at dinner, and that sound was enough to keep Danny going. He dried his hands on a towel and looked out the window at the dark fields. The farmhouse sat on 50 acres of land that had belonged to his family for 3 generations. It was peaceful here, far from the busy cities and the noise of modern life. Danny liked it that way. After 8 years in the Marines and everything that came after, peace was all he wanted. That was when he heard the knock. It was soft at first, so soft that Danny thought he had imagined it. Then it came again, a little louder. 3 gentle taps on the front door. Danny checked the clock on the wall. It was almost midnight. Nobody came to visit at this hour. His nearest neighbor, Kevin Marsh, lived 2 miles down the road and always called before stopping by. Something felt wrong. He walked to the door slowly. There was a baseball bat leaning against the wall near the entrance, a habit from his military days. He picked it up, held it loosely at his side, and opened the door. 2 small children stood on his porch. Danny blinked and looked again, thinking his tired eyes were playing tricks on him. But they were real. A boy and a girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, holding hands tightly. They wore strange silver clothes that seemed to shimmer in the porch light. Their skin had a soft lavender color, like the first light of dawn. Their eyes were large and golden, with no white around the edges. They were not human. Danny had seen the news reports like everyone else. Aliens existed. The government had confirmed it 5 years ago after a ship crashed in the Pacific Ocean. But contact had been limited. And most people on Earth had never seen an extraterrestrial in person. Now 2 of them stood on his doorstep. Shivering in the cold night air, the girl spoke first. Her voice was small and tired, but her English was clear. "Please," she said. "We need help. We need sanctuary." Danny did not move. His mind was racing with questions. Where had they come from? How did they get here? Why his house in the middle of nowhere? The boy looked up at him with those strange golden eyes. There were tears on his cheeks, leaving wet trails on his lavender skin. "They are coming for us," the boy whispered. "Please do not send us away." Something shifted in Danny's chest. He thought of Lily upstairs, safe in her bed. He thought of how scared she had been in the hospital when Maria was dying. The look in these children's eyes was the same. Pure, desperate fear. He lowered the baseball bat. "Come inside," he said. Quickly, the children rushed past him into the warmth of the house. Danny closed the door and locked it, then turned to look at his strange visitors. They stood in his living room, still holding hands, looking around at the simple furniture and family photos on the walls. "Sit down," Danny said, pointing to the old couch near the fireplace. "I will get you something warm." He went to the kitchen and heated up the leftover soup from dinner. When he returned, the children had not moved from where they stood. They watched him with a mix of hope and caution, like stray animals unsure if they could trust a human hand. "It is okay," Danny said gently. "Sit, eat. You are safe here." They finally sat, and Danny handed them the bowls of soup. The girl took a small sip, then another, then began eating quickly. The boy did the same. They were starving. Danny sat in the chair across from them and waited. When the bowls were empty, the girl looked up at him. "Thank you," she said. "My name is Kira. This is my brother Theo. I am Danny. Can you tell me what is happening? Where did you come from?" Kira and Theo exchanged a look. Some silent communication passed between them, the kind that only twins share. Then Kira nodded and began to speak. They had come from a world called Valora, a planet in a star system very far from Earth. Their people had been part of a great empire that controlled hundreds of worlds. But 3 months ago, everything changed. An enemy called the Dominion of Krath attacked without warning. In a single night, they destroyed the capital city and killed almost everyone, including Kira and Theo's parents. The twins had escaped only because a loyal servant had hidden them in a cargo ship. For weeks, they had traveled through space, hiding in containers and storage rooms, eating scraps and drinking recycled water. Finally, they had found a small escape pod and launched it toward the one place their mother had told them about Earth. Why Earth? Danny asked. There are many planets out there. Why come here? Theo answered this time, his voice quiet but steady. Our mother told us stories about humans. She said that of all the species in the galaxy, humans are the only ones who protect children that are not their own. She said, if we were ever in danger, we should find the humans. Danny felt a strange tightness in his throat. He thought about all the news stories he had seen over the years, about people adopting orphans from war zones, about strangers risking their lives to save children from burning buildings. He had never thought of it as something special. It was just what people did. Your mother was a smart woman, he said. Kira's golden eyes filled with tears. She was the queen. They killed her because of us. Because of what we carry. What do you carry? But before Kira could answer, a noise came from the hallway. Danny turned to see Lily standing in the doorway, rubbing her eyes and clutching her stuffed rabbit. Daddy? Who are you talking to? Danny looked at the 2 alien children on his couch, then back at his daughter. He had a choice to make. He could call the authorities, let the government handle this, and go back to his quiet life. That would be the safe thing to do. But Danny had never chosen safe when it mattered. Lily, he said, come say hello. These are Kira and Theo. They are going to be staying with us for a while. Lily walked over and looked at the twins with the open curiosity that only children have. She studied their lavender skin and golden eyes, then smiled. Your eyes are pretty, she said to Kira. Do you want to see my room? I have a dollhouse. Kira looked at Danny, uncertain. He nodded. Slowly, Kira stood and took Lily's offered hand. Theo followed his sister, and the 3 children disappeared down the hallway together. Danny sat alone in the living room, listening to the soft sounds of his daughter, introducing her new friends to her toys. He did not know what tomorrow would bring. He did not know what dangers were chasing these children across the stars. But he knew one thing for certain. Whatever came next, those kids were under his roof now. And Danny Cole protected his own. The first week was difficult. Kira and Theo jumped at every sound. When a truck drove past the house on the distant road, they would freeze and look at Danny with terror in their golden eyes. Loud noises made them hide under tables. Theo had nightmares every night, waking up screaming in a language Danny did not understand. But slowly, day by day, they began to heal. Danny set up the spare bedroom for them. He bought extra clothes from the thrift store in town, explaining to the curious cashier that his niece and nephew were visiting from out of state. The lie came easily, and nobody questioned it. People in small towns minded their own business. Lily was the biggest help. She treated Kira and Theo like new friends rather than strange aliens from another world. She taught them how to play card games and showed them cartoons on the old television. She shared her toys without being asked and held Theo's hand when he cried at night. Children, Danny realized, did not care about differences the way adults did. To Lily, Kira and Theo were just kids like her. Kids who needed kindness. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Danny sat with the twins in the living room. The fire crackled softly in the fireplace, and the house was warm and quiet. It was time to learn the truth. "Kira," Danny said gently, "you said your mother was the queen. And you said they killed her because of something you carry. I need to understand what that means." Kira looked at her brother. Theo nodded slowly. "Do you know what jump gates are?" Kira asked. Danny shook his head. He had heard rumors about how aliens traveled between stars, but the details were beyond human knowledge. "Jump gates are very old machines," Kira explained. "They were built thousands of years ago by a civilization that no longer exists. Nobody knows how to make new ones. But these gates connect the galaxy. They let ships travel from one star to another in seconds instead of years. Without the gates, space travel would be almost impossible." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "Our ancestors, the Valoran royal family, were the keepers of the gates. Long ago, the builders gave our bloodline a key. It is called the cipher key. It is not a physical object. It is written into our blood, into our bodies, into every part of what we are." Danny leaned forward. "What does this key do?" "It controls the gates," Theo said quietly. "With the key, we can open gates, close them, or destroy them completely. The entire network of travel in the galaxy depends on our family." Danny sat back, trying to understand the weight of what he was hearing. These two small children, eating cereal at his kitchen table and playing with his daughter's dolls, held the power to control galactic civilization. "The Dominion of Krath," Kira continued. "They want the key for themselves. They want to control all travel, all trade, everything. But they cannot just take it from us. The key is part of our living bodies. To extract it..." She stopped. Her hands were shaking. Theo finished for her. "To extract it, they would have to take us apart, piece by piece. The process would kill us." Silence filled the room. Danny felt cold despite the fire. "They murdered everyone," Kira whispered. "Our mother, our father, our aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone who carried even a trace of the royal bloodline. They wanted to make sure no one could ever challenge their control. But they did not find us. Mother hid us before they came. She died protecting our secret." Tears rolled down her lavender cheeks. Danny moved to sit beside her on the couch. He put his arm around her thin shoulders, and she leaned into him, sobbing quietly. "You are children," Danny said firmly. "Whatever power is in your blood, you are still just kids. And kids deserve to be safe. Kids deserve to grow up. The Dominion does not care," Theo said. His young voice was hard with anger. "They see us as tools, as things to use. They will never stop hunting us. Then we will make sure they never find you." Danny meant every word. He had made a promise to himself when he opened that door, and he would keep it. Over the next few weeks, Danny began to prepare. He told no one about the twins' true nature. As far as the world knew, they were just refugee children from a distant planet, victims of a war that humans barely understood. The government had bigger concerns than tracking every alien who landed on Earth. But Danny knew that would not last forever. Sooner or later, someone would come looking. He needed to be ready. He reinforced the farmhouse doors and windows. He installed motion sensors around the property, connected to an alarm system he built himself. He dug a hidden shelter beneath the barn where the children could hide if danger came. He taught Kira and Theo escape routes through the woods and made them memorize the path to Kevin Marsh's house. Kevin was the only person Danny trusted with part of the truth. They had served together years ago, and Kevin had saved Danny's life in a desert far from home. When Danny told him that he was sheltering children who were in danger, Kevin did not ask questions. He simply nodded and said he would keep watch. "You know I have your back, brother," Kevin said. "Whatever comes." Danny was grateful for the help. He could not do this alone. Meanwhile, life on the farm continued. Danny taught the twins how to feed the chickens and collect eggs. He showed them how to fish in the creek behind the property. They learned to ride bicycles, falling and laughing and getting back up again. Slowly, the fear in their eyes began to fade, replaced by something like hope. Lily treated Kira like a sister. The two girls were inseparable, whispering secrets and braiding each other's hair. Theo was quieter, but he followed Danny everywhere, watching him work and asking endless questions about human machines and tools. "Why do you fix things yourself?" Theo asked one day as Danny repaired a broken fence post. "On Valora, we had machines that did all the work." Danny smiled. "Because it feels good to use your hands. Because when you build something yourself, it means more. And because out here, you cannot always wait for someone else to help you." Theo thought about this for a long moment. Then he picked up a hammer and asked Danny to teach him. 2 months passed. The seasons began to change, and the Montana mountains were covered with the first snow of winter. The farmhouse was warm and full of life. Laughter echoed through the halls. For the first time since his wife died, Danny felt like his house was a home again. He should have known it could not last. One cold morning, Danny woke to the sound of his motion sensor alarm. He jumped out of bed and ran to the window. In the gray light of dawn, he saw something that made his blood freeze. A ship was descending from the sky. It was black and sleek, shaped like a curved blade. It landed in the wheat field behind the farmhouse, crushing the frozen stalks beneath it. The Dominion had found them. Danny grabbed the rifle from his closet and ran to wake the children. Whatever happened next, he would face it standing. He would not let anyone take those kids without a fight. Danny moved fast. He had trained for moments like this, even if he never thought they would come on his own farm. His body remembered the old instincts, and fear turned into focus. He woke the children with sharp whispers. Lily was confused and scared, but she trusted her father. Kira grabbed her brother's hand, and the terror in their golden eyes told Danny everything he needed to know. This was what they had been running from. This was what had killed their family. "Basement," Danny ordered. "Now, do not come out until I tell you it is safe." Lily pulled Kira toward the hidden door behind the bookshelf. Danny had built the shelter himself, reinforced with concrete and hidden from view. It would not stop a determined search, but it would buy time. Theo hesitated at the door. He looked at Danny with something beyond fear. There was guilt in his young face. "This is our fault," Theo said. "We brought this to you. We are sorry." Danny knelt down and put his hand on the boy's shoulder. "You did nothing wrong. You survived. That is what you were supposed to do. Now go with your sister and keep Lily safe. Can you do that for me?" Theo nodded once, then disappeared into the basement. The bookshelf slid back into place. Danny checked his rifle. It was a hunting weapon, good for deer and not much else. He knew it would do little against whatever armor those aliens wore. But he had other preparations. He had been getting ready for this moment, even if he did not want to admit it. He walked to the front door and stepped onto the porch. The ship sat in his field like a wound in the earth. Its ramp lowered with a hiss of steam, and 3 figures emerged. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, with bodies covered in hard shells that looked like black glass. Their heads were triangular, with too many eyes and mandibles that clicked when they moved. Krath soldiers. The nightmares that had destroyed an empire. The lead soldier stopped 20 feet from the porch. A device on its chest crackled, and a cold mechanical voice spoke in English. "Human, you are harboring fugitive assets belonging to the Dominion of Krath. Surrender them immediately, and your existence will be permitted to continue." Danny held his rifle loosely at his side. His heart was pounding, but his voice was steady. "There are no assets here, just my family. We have tracked the genetic signature. The Valoran heirs are inside this structure. They are property of the Dominion. This is not a negotiation. Property. The word burned in Danny's mind. They called children property. They had crossed the galaxy to take two kids apart like machines. Something dark and fierce rose in Danny's chest. It was the same feeling he had known in combat, the cold fury that came when there was no more room for reason. "Then you should know something about humans," Danny said. "We do not negotiate when it comes to our kids either." The soldier's mandibles clicked with what might have been amusement. "You cannot stop us. Your weapon is primitive. You are one organism against the might of the Dominion." Danny smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Who said anything about one? He pressed the button hidden in his pocket. The ground erupted 20 feet in front of the soldiers. Danny had buried the explosive charges weeks ago, hidden beneath the frozen dirt. The blast sent two of the craft flying backward, their shells cracked and leaking dark fluid. The third stumbled, but stayed upright. Danny raised his rifle and fired. The bullet bounced off the soldier's armor without leaving a mark. The craft charged forward, moving faster than anything that size should be able to move. It reached the porch in seconds and struck Danny across the chest with an armored limb. Pain exploded through his body. He felt ribs break as he flew backward into the wall of his house. The rifle clattered away across the wooden boards. Danny tried to rise, but his body would not respond. Blood filled his mouth. The soldier stood over him, raising its arm for a killing blow. Then a gunshot cracked through the cold morning air. The craft soldier jerked and stumbled. A second shot followed, then a third. The bullets were not ordinary rounds. They punched through the black shell armor, leaving smoking holes. The soldier collapsed to the ground and did not move. Danny turned his head toward the tree line. Kevin Marsh stood at the edge of the woods, a modified rifle in his hands. Smoke rose from the barrel. "Told you I had your back," Kevin called out. He walked toward the porch, keeping his weapon trained on the fallen soldiers. "You okay?" Danny coughed, tasting blood. "Felt better. Those rounds? Armor piercing. Got them from a buddy who works at a military research lab. Figured they might come in handy someday." Kevin helped Danny to his feet. The pain was incredible, but Danny forced himself to stand. This was not over. "There might be more coming," Danny said. "Already on it." Kevin pulled out his phone. "Made some calls while I was running over here. The whole county is waking up." Within an hour, Danny understood what Kevin meant. Pickup trucks began arriving at the farm, one after another. Men and women stepped out carrying hunting rifles, shotguns, and whatever else they had. Some were veterans like Danny and Kevin. Others were farmers, teachers, store owners. All of them had heard that something was happening at the coal place, and all of them had come to help by noon. There were 40 people forming a perimeter around the property. They built barricades from hay bales and farm equipment. They set up watch positions in the barn and the tree line. Nobody asked Danny to explain what was going on. They saw the alien ship, the dead soldiers, and the blood on Danny's shirt. That was enough. News spread faster than Danny could track. Someone had filmed the arriving ship on their phone. The video went online and spread across the world within hours. By evening, the entire planet knew that aliens had attacked a farm in Montana, and that the locals had fought back. By midnight, the story had reached beyond Earth. Ships from a dozen species orbiting the solar system picked up the signals. The Galactic Council received reports of an incident on the primitive human world. Something involving the lost Valoran heirs. The Dominion sent more ships toward Earth, but now they found the planet preparing for them. Human military vessels repositioned in orbit. Satellites adjusted their trajectories. Deep in bunkers around the world, generals and leaders asked the same question: what are we dealing with here? On the coal farm, Danny sat in his kitchen while a doctor from town wrapped his broken ribs. Lily, Kira, and Theo had emerged from the basement and were huddled together on the couch. Wrapped in blankets. Kevin stood by the window, watching the perimeter. "More trucks coming," he reported. "Looks like half the state wants to help." Danny looked at the three children on his couch. Lily had her arms around the twins, protecting them the way she protected her stuffed animals during thunderstorms. "Let them come," Danny said quietly. "All of them. The more the better." He did not know how this would end, but he knew that he was no longer alone. Whatever happened next, humanity would face it together. And for the first time since the aliens had landed in his field, Danny felt something like hope. The Galactic Council had not gathered for an emergency session in 300 years. The great powers of the galaxy preferred to handle conflicts through quiet deals and secret agreements. Open debate was considered messy and dangerous, but the situation on Earth had forced their hand. The council chamber was a massive sphere, floating in orbit around a neutral star. Representatives from over 200 species sat in curved rows rising toward a domed ceiling made of transparent crystal. Stars glittered above them like scattered diamonds. It was designed to remind everyone of the vastness of the cosmos and the smallness of individual concerns. Today, however, the chamber buzzed with tension. The matter at hand was not small at all. Ambassador Viren of the Krath Dominion stood at the central podium. His black shell armor gleamed under the artificial lights, and his many eyes swept across the assembled representatives. "Fellow members of the council," Viren began, his translator rendering his clicking speech into smooth galactic standard. "We face a crisis that threatens the stability of our entire civilization. The lost heirs of the Valoran Empire have been located on a primitive world called Earth. They carry the cipher key, the only means of maintaining the jump gate network that connects our stars." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Everyone knew what the gates meant. Without them, travel between systems would take generations instead of moments. Empires would crumble. Trade would collapse. The galaxy would splinter into isolated fragments. Viren continued. "The Dominion has attempted to retrieve the assets peacefully. We were met with violence from the native species. 3 of our soldiers were killed. This act of aggression cannot be tolerated." A representative from the Mullion Collective raised a tentacle. "What exactly do you propose, Ambassador?" "We demand that the Council authorize immediate intervention. The humans must be compelled to surrender the heirs. If they refuse, they must face the consequences." "And by consequences, you mean military action against their world?" "If necessary, yes." The chamber erupted in voices. Some supported Viren. The Dominion was powerful, and many species owed them favors or feared their fleets. Others were hesitant. War was expensive, and Earth was far from the main travel routes. A few species quietly wondered if the humans might make useful allies against the Dominion's growing power. Then a new voice cut through the noise. "May I speak?" The council fell silent. All eyes turned toward the back of the chamber, where a small delegation sat in the observers section. Humans have been granted limited status only 10 years ago, allowed to watch proceedings but not to vote. Most species considered them too primitive to matter. The speaker was a woman in her 50s with gray, streaked hair and a calm expression. Her name was Claire Dawson. Before joining the diplomatic corps, she had been a school principal in Ohio. She had volunteered for this assignment because she thought it would be interesting. A way to see the galaxy before she retired. She had not expected to speak for her entire species. Council President Morrow, an ancient being whose species communicated through color patterns, flickered with curiosity. "The observer from Earth may speak, though we remind her that humans have no voting rights in this chamber." Claire stood and walked toward the central podium. Viren stepped aside, his mandibles clicking with annoyance. "Thank you, President Morrow," Claire said. Her voice was steady and clear, amplified by the chamber's acoustic systems. I will be brief. She turned to face the assembled representatives. Let me make sure I understand the situation correctly. The Dominion of Krath is asking this council to authorize an invasion of Earth so they can take custody of 2 children, ages 6 and 7, in order to extract their genetic material through a process that will kill them. Silence hung in the air. Vren's translator crackled. They are not children. They are biological repositories of classified technology. Their age is irrelevant to their strategic value. Claire nodded slowly. I see. Biological repositories. Strategic value. She paused. On Earth, we have a simpler word for what you are describing. We call it murder. This is not a matter of human morality, Viarn snapped. The stability of the galaxy depends on the cipher key. Without it, the jump gates will eventually fail. Trillions of lives depend on that network. And you believe the answer is to kill 2 kids. We believe the answer is to secure a vital resource by any means necessary. Claire reached into her pocket and pulled out a small tablet device. She tapped the screen, and images appeared on the holographic display above the podium. The first image showed Danny Cole's farmhouse surrounded by armed humans. Trucks and barricades filled the frame. American flags flew from makeshift poles. This was taken 48 hours ago, Claire said. Word of your attack spread quickly. Within 12 hours, over 500 civilians had arrived at that farm to help defend it. The second image showed massive crowds filling the streets of cities around the world. Signs in dozens of languages demanded protection for the alien children. These are protests in major human cities. Millions of people have gathered to demand that we protect Kira and Theo. Not because of politics. Not because of the jump gates. Because they are children, and because that is what humans do. The third image showed Earth's orbital defense network. Military vessels from 12 nations repositioning around the planet. And this is our military response. Every nation on Earth has agreed to a unified defense protocol. Any ship that approaches our planet with hostile intent will be treated as an act of war. Viarn made a sound that might have been laughter. You threaten the Dominion? Your species has no jump gate access. Your fleet is negligible. You cannot project force beyond your own star system. You are a minor nuisance at best. Claire smiled. It was the same smile Danny had worn on his porch. You are absolutely right. We cannot reach you. Our ships are slow, our technology is primitive, and we have no allies in this chamber. She tapped her tablet again. A new diagram appeared, showing the network of jump gates that connected the galaxy. But here is what we can do. For the past 10 years, we have been studying every probe and ship that has entered our system. We have mapped your communication frequencies. We have analyzed the harmonic resonance of your shields. We have learned more about your technology than you realize. She pointed to several nodes on the map, highlighted in red. In the last 48 hours, we have repositioned 27 nuclear warheads in orbit. Each one has been modified with disruptors tuned to the exact frequency of your jump gate relays. We cannot invade your worlds. But with the push of a button, we can destroy the gates connecting this sector of the galaxy. You will be cut off from half of your territory in an instant. The chamber exploded in chaos. Representatives shouted. Tentacles waved. Color patterns flashed with alarm. Viarn stepped forward, his many eyes fixed on Claire. You are bluffing. Claire met his gaze without flinching. Come for those children and find out. The standoff lasted a long moment. Then, slowly, Viarn stepped back. His mandibles clicked in a pattern that his translator did not render. Claire turned to address the full council. Humanity is new to the galactic stage. We are small and weak by your standards. But we have survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. We have climbed out of darkness again and again because we refuse to abandon our own. She let her words hang in the air. Those children are under our protection now. They are ours. And we will burn everything around us before we let you take them. She walked back to her seat in the observer section. Nobody spoke. For the first time in its long history, the Galactic Council had no response. The standoff lasted 3 months. During that time, the galaxy held its breath. The Dominion positioned warships near human space, but they did not attack. Earth kept its nuclear warheads armed and ready. Trade routes shifted as species tried to avoid being caught in the crossfire of a war that never came. Meanwhile, something unexpected happened. The jump gates began to fail. The ancient technology had been built by a civilization lost to history. Nobody knew how to repair it. For thousands of years, the Valoran royal family had maintained the network through the cipher key encoded in their blood. Their genetic signature was the password that kept the system running. With the royal line nearly extinct and the last heirs hidden on a protected world, the gates began to degrade. At first, the failures were small. A gate would take slightly longer to activate. Travel times increased by minutes, then hours. But the pattern was clear. Without the cipher key, the entire network would eventually collapse. Trillions of beings across the galaxy faced a simple choice: find a solution or watch their civilization crumble. The Dominion tried everything. They captured Valoran refugees from other worlds, hoping to find traces of the royal bloodline. They failed. They attempted to reverse engineer the gate technology. They failed again. They even offered Earth a deal, promising peaceful coexistence in exchange for the twins. Earth refused. Claire Dawson delivered the message personally. You slaughtered their family and destroyed their world. You called them property. And now you want us to trust you with their lives? No. Find another way. Slowly, other species began to see what humans already knew. The twins were not tools to be used. They were children who had suffered more than anyone should have to bear. And they deserved the right to choose their own future. A coalition began to form. 12 civilizations approached Earth with a proposal. They would provide full diplomatic recognition, technology exchange, and protection in return for one thing: let Kira and Theo grow up safely, and when they became adults, allow them to decide for themselves whether to restore the network. The offer arrived at the coal farmhouse on a spring morning, delivered by a delegation of alien diplomats who landed in the same field where the Dominion ship had attacked months before. Danny watched them approach from his porch. Kira and Theo stood beside him, holding hands as they had on the night they first arrived. Lily sat on the railing, swinging her legs and looking at the strange visitors with curious eyes. Claire Dawson stepped out of the lead shuttle. Behind her came representatives from a dozen worlds, beings of every shape and size. They looked nervous. Danny could not blame them. The last aliens to land on his property had not left alive. "Hello, Danny," Claire said. "May we come in?" They gathered in the living room. Diplomats crowded onto couches and chairs built for human bodies. Claire explained the proposal in simple terms. The galaxy needed the twins, but they would not be forced to do anything. When they turned 18, they could choose to use their gift or not. Either way, Earth would be protected. "What if we say no?" Theo asked. He was still small, but his voice had grown stronger over the past months. Living with Danny had given him courage. "Then the gates will continue to fail," Claire answered honestly. "Travel will become difficult. Some civilizations will suffer. Others will adapt. It will not be easy, but the galaxy has survived hard times before." Kira looked at Danny. In the months since their arrival, he had become something she never expected to find again. "A father. What do you think we should do?" she asked. Danny looked at the alien diplomats, than at the three children in his care. He had spent his life following orders, doing what he was told. But this was not his choice to make. "I think you are kids," he said. "You have years to figure this out. And whatever you decide, you will not be doing it alone. You have a home here. You have people who love you. That is not going to change." Kira's golden eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. For the first time since her mother's death, she believed things might be okay. The agreement was signed that afternoon. Earth formally joined the Galactic Council as a full member. Technology began flowing to human scientists. New ships were built, capable of traveling beyond the solar system. Humanity had taken its first real steps into the wider universe. And at the center of it all, on a small farm in Montana, 3 children grew up together. 10 years passed. Lily Cole graduated from high school with honors. She had decided to study medicine, inspired by the doctor who had patched up her father after the attack. Kira and Theo graduated beside her, the first Valoran heirs to complete a human education. The galaxy watched and waited. On their 18th birthday, Kira and Theo made their choice. They traveled to the central hub of the Jump Gate network, accompanied by Danny, Lily, Claire Dawson, and a delegation of representatives from the Coalition. The chamber was vast and ancient, filled with machines older than most civilizations. The twins stood before a console covered in symbols no living being could read. "Are you sure about this?" Danny asked. Kira nodded. "We have been thinking about it for years. The gates are important. They connect people across the stars. Without them, species become isolated. Fear grows. Wars become easier. But we are not just going to restore the system," Theo added. "We are going to change it." They placed their hands on the console together. Light flowed through their bodies, ancient technology responding to the cipher key in their blood. The machines hummed with power that had been dormant for a decade. When they stepped back, the galaxy felt the difference immediately. Gates that had been failing sprang back to life. Travel times returned to normal. Trade routes reopened, but there was something new in the system. A protocol that the twins had added, written into the very heart of the network. Any civilization that harmed children, whether its own or anyone else's, would be cut off from the gates permanently. No warnings. No second chances. The network would recognize the offense and sever the connection instantly. They called it the Cole Protocol, named after the human who had opened his door to strangers in the night. The Dominion of Krath was the first to be affected. Within hours, their gates went dark. Their empire, built on conquest and cruelty, found itself isolated from the rest of the galaxy. The species they had terrorized for centuries finally had protection. News of the protocol spread quickly. Governments scrambled to review their laws. Practices that had been accepted for generations were suddenly examined under new light. It was not a perfect solution, but it was a start. On Earth, Danny Cole sat on his porch and watched the sunset. Lily, Kira, and Theo sat beside him, 3 young adults who had changed the galaxy. "Do you think it will work?" Lily asked. Danny thought about his wife, about the promise he had made to protect his daughter. He thought about the 2 frightened children who had knocked on his door, and everything that had happened since. "I think people are capable of terrible things," he said slowly. "But I also think they are capable of choosing something better. Sometimes all they need is a reason." He put his arms around his children. "All 3 of them. You gave them a reason." Kira leaned against his shoulder, and Theo smiled for the first time without shadows in his eyes. Lily took her father's hand and held it tight. Above them, the stars glittered with new possibilities. The galaxy had been given a rule it could not break. And at the heart of that rule was a simple truth that humans had always known. Children are not property. They are not tools or resources or strategic assets. They are the future, and the future is worth protecting.